This is part three of the series discussing claims, distortion, and lies of the British far right that hides reality. Another claim of the British far right is deindustrialization and unemployment. They talk about immigrants that they are taking up jobs and rendering British people jobless. In reality, most of the people from immigrant backgrounds are uh, doing low paid jobs where ordinary British people from working class background do not want to go because they are very low paid. More than 55,000 small businesses are supported because of them. But again, they what they do not tell you is that this deindustrialization was triggered because of the liberal policy of their icon again, Margaret Thatcher, because she opened up British market for the Chinese goods, and then the British market was flooded by Chinese goods, and industries like especially steel badly suffered. And China today is manufacturing half of the world's steel, half of the equipments, electrical equipments. So China has not only damaged industries or interest of people in the UK, but other parts of the world. And naturally, most of the far right leader or the conservative elements like Matthew Goodwin and Nigel Farage, they believe in capitalism. So capitalism has its own rules. It has its own movement. So if Nigel Farage is running a company, and let's say in the UK, and if he has to pay £3,000 to a worker or one worker, he has to pay £3,000. And if he can get the same work done in India by paying only £100, where would he go? Either they need to redefine the definition of capitalism, the definition of economy. They need to talk about an economy that looks the interest of the people, or that prefers the interest of people over profit. But capitalists do not want to do that. So people like Nigel Farage, Matthew Arnold, or Tommy Robinson will never protest in front of the head offices or headquarters of the British company that have shifted their manufacturing units to India, Bangladesh, and other countries in search of profit, because they just have a voracious greed to make profit. So they have shifted there. They did not think about white workers or British working classes. They just kept one thing in their mind, that they have to make more money. Just recently, it was reported in newspaper that Nationwide is shutting down its different centers or different branches, rendering more than 4,000 people jobless. Possibly 4,000 people would be jobless, and most of them are white British. But you have not heard even a single statement of Nigel Farage or Matthew Goodwin or Tommy Robinson. So they never talk about big capitalists. While they talk about immigrants that they are taking away, jobs, or they are taking away homes, they will never talk about Arab monarchs or investor from Middle East who are Muslim and who are taking different companies in the UK, who are running them now. They have share in the Heathrow Airport, they have share in Gatwick Airport. They are also buying properties in the big business areas or commercial areas. Nobody raises any objection to that. So this is another important, that these leaders ignore class issue. In reality, this is the class issue. I mean, look at Eton Grammar. It is charging somewhere between 47,000 to 67,000 pound fee. So people like Matthew Goodwin, maybe Nigel Farage, and some other. Tommy Robinson is a class warrior. Some critics might call him a lumpen proletariat, who is being used by rich far right leader or rich conservative elements, right? So maybe the owners of GP News can send his kids or grandkids to Eton Grammar, that is charging £67,000 fee, while average British white worker may not earn more than 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000. Can he afford 67,000? But on the other hand, you see Rishi Sunak, who is brown, he can afford it. He can send his kids or maybe grandkids to that school. David Cameron, who is Christian, he can do that. Lord Ali, who is Muslim, he can do that. Sir Anwar Parvez, who is Muslim, can do that. Goldsmith, who is from Jewish family, these all rich people can afford to send their kids to these elitist schools which are charging somewhere between 30,000 to 67,000. On average, their green cover is also more than 10 acre or more than 5 acre, while in government school it's less than 1 acre. In those elitist school, there is no shortage of staff at all. There could even be teachers for giving special attention or special tuition or special classes to kids. But on the other hand, in the state run schools, you do have this phenomenon of over shortage of facilities. So again, this is a class issue that they may talk about immigrants, they may talk about white working class. If, as Matthew Goodwin somewhere said, that white working class feel pissed off, it means that Nigel Farage, Matthew Goodwin have the pain of these white working class. Then why not? If Eton Grammar is an excellent institution, why shouldn't all white working class kids be studying there? Why shouldn't the doors of elitist institution be open for all white working class kids? So again, this is class issue. Eton Grammars or Eton College door are open for anyone who has deep pocket. Whether it is Brown Rishi Sunak, Lord Ali, Muslim Lord Ali, or Christian David Cameron, or Boris Johnson, or Goldsmiths, Jewish Goldsmith. One thing is common among them, they all have money, they all have deep pocket. While somebody, a white working class man, living maybe 10 or 20 kilometers proximity to Eton Grammar, his kids cannot even imagine of entering that institution. So this is very simple that this is class issue. On the other hand, I ask very simple question to my brothers who are supporting far right or conservative elements. Today, the minimum wage is around £12. Tomorrow, if government decides to raise it to, let's say, 30 or £40. Now tell me, Lakshmi Mittal, who is a Hindu capitalist, Sir Anwar Parvez and Lord Ali, who are Muslim capitalists, maybe Boris Johnson or David Cameron or people like them who are Christian capitalists, maybe Goldsmith family and others, the owners of this hotel where immigrants have been moved, Jewish capitalists, what would be their reaction? And what would be the reaction of the white workers living in Northeast? What would be the reaction of the Pakistani workers living in Birmingham or Bradford? Or what would be the reaction of black workers living in Brixton and other areas of London? They would all be euphoric. And these people, they would be furious. These all capitalists would be furious. So how can we say that this is not the elite question? Can a white working class man be a member of the elitist club? Can he afford to have his wedding, his daughters or sons' wedding in Dorchester and other expensive hotels? So it is, the UK is still facing a class issue, but what these far right forces are trying to do, they are trying to hide that class issue. They are not trying to raise the issue that British companies are shifting their manufacturing unit, their services unit to other countries. They are not protesting against them. They don't want to protest against any bank that are rendering white workers jobless, moving jobs to India or other country. They do not want to fight against free market economy that naturally the country is suffering because of the flooding of goods from China and other countries. So the problem is that this is a class issue, and against on the matter of class issue, far right distorts reality. It does not want to tell reality to ordinary British guys. But in reality, a poor white working class man or non white working class man living in a poor area, they will all have the same problem, maybe poor housing, maybe inadequate facilities. More than 14,000 schools, hospitals, sports center were reportedly shut down during the time of Tories parties. And many these far right activists, ideologically, they are very close to Tory parties, but they would never talk about that. They would never say that more than 63% budget of affordable social housing was cut down by the Tory party. These were the real factors. If there had been enough affordable social housing, housing would not have been an issue now. If there had been enough funding for NHS and private hospitals had not been rewarded, there would not have been a lot of crowd at NHS. So we have to, especially the white working class who are supporting these far right and their leaders, most of whom are extremely rich and have studied, have nothing to do with common people. Like Nigel Farage and Matthew Goodwin, they got education from prestigious schools where working class kid may not imagine entering, let alone taking admission and affording fee. They may be the members of expensive clubs where a white working class cannot dare to enter. They may be making expensive trips which a white working class cannot afford. So white working class men should be aware of their machinations. They are trying to divide working class. The same is the case with the Islamists. They are also trying to divide the working class. They are also spitting venom against secularism. They are also spitting venom against democracy. So these both forces, in a way, are ideological brothers, and they are trying to divide working class. Therefore, we must reject this policy of divisiveness, and we must rise against these far right forces who are pushing the country towards a civil war, who are pushing the country towards disunity. And Europe should especially be sensitive to this issue because today they are creating this hatred against on the basis of, on the plea of, on the pretext of immigration. But in 1919 or 1940, 39, there was not much immigration. But Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco were still there, who were trying to promote hatred. During those decades, they tried to promote hatred in the name of, against gypsies, against Roma people, against certain community, against eunuchs. And now they are, so if there are not immigrants, tomorrow these far right people will find some other excuse. During 60s, the level of immigration was not as high as perhaps it is today, but they were still doing the politics of hatred. So unfortunately, people like Nigel Farage and Matthew Goodwin, according to their critics, I'm not saying, they have turned hatred and hate mongering into a profitable business. They're thriving on it. And Tommy Robinson also thrived on it. He also thrived on it. He was not from elite background, but he made a lot of money making foreign trips, expensive trips. How did he do that? He thrived on hatred. So we must reject this hate mongering and we must unite working class people of the UK.